Hello. Hello, everyone. Again, if you want to, oh, that's very loud. If you want to come along and move to the front, feel free to. If you have seen me talk before, I like wandering about, so I'm hoping I am not going to trip or anything. Are we all good to go? Great. So, let's get started. So, this is what we're bringing to Drupal. The swarm is coming. And so this talk is all going to be about this swarm, the swarm of agents doing things for you. And I really want to focus especially on how you can help. We're really at a place now where this AI community has got a little bit more mature, stable, kind of know what we're doing, and it's a really great place to get involved. So, AI is a new UI, how we're building AI into Drupal agents. Now, before I start, so this is me, Jamie. I'm co-founder of an agency called Freely Give, and we've been focusing on native Drupal CRM for a while, and obviously became obsessed with AI. If you have spoken to me, all I do is talk about AI. I'm doing that here. I do that at home. I do that in the pool. I do that at the toddler groups I'm part of, just anyone. It's just AI. And then I've been working a lot, particularly with Marcus, who's here somewhere, right at the back, there you go, who has pretty much built all of this, because I am not a programmer. So before I get started, who here has tried out the Drupal CMS AI tools? Cool. Who here has built something on top of the AI module in any way? Cool. And who here has worked with some kind of AI frameworks like, I don't know, LangChain, Llama Index, Claude Code, anything? Great. And who here, who here's never used any AI stuff at all in any way? So some people, cool. General show of hands. Are people feeling positive about AI? Raise your hands, and obviously I'll ask you. Great. And who feeling negative about AI? Cool. So this is the AI module, the heart of what we've done in the AI ecosystem. It starts with an abstraction layer. It means that you can make it work with any model, OpenAI, Claude, all these different ones, and anything you build on top of it will just work. It's the plan. So there's the swarm, and the Drupal CMS AI agents came out January the 15th, and the heart of it was this chatbot. And a lot of people were expecting it to be something that would just generate content and be a way of helping you copy and paste things from ChatGPT into Drupal. But instead, we went a little bit further, and we created a system of AI agents that could actually change fields, change structures, do things on your site. And we have this thing here, the AI assistant. It's the heart of it, where you can edit the configuration behind that chatbot. So since then, even January the 15th, I say doubled. Actually, it's now trebled the usage of the AI module since then. We've had the latest release, 1.04, had 20 bugs fixed, 17 tasks, but 35 people got involved in helping. Acquia really led the way in a lot of stuff, funding some of the work that we've done, quite a lot of it, and particularly they've been working on AI-assisted migration. So you saw at Barcelona a little demo of what that could look like. And to make it safer, we started thinking about using AI to help you migrate scripts, help you bring content in. And some of the results of that, you saw the Dries note today, an agent that could take an image and turn it into a component. But as mentioned in that talk, we've been doing a lot more of that. It's not quite ready. We were hoping to have it more ready to release by Atlanta, but I think it's something that we're still working on. There's this international focus. There's some very large organizations exploring it. This hackathon with the European Union was, with the European Commission was so exciting. Me and Marcus got to go there and just be part of it a little bit. Frederick, I think, was there. There was these tools. There were these two challenges they had. And one was using Amazon's tools to set up some RAGs, some search stuff. And some people using our CK editor assistance modules. And they had these challenges they had to set in like 6 hours. And it really, the energy in the room was amazing. All the people doing the Drupal stuff were so happy. All their presentations were so happy. And all the people using the Amazon stuff were so miserable. And there was this one bit where there was actually a representative at Amazon there. And they had to give some presentation on what they built. And this person, the Amazon representative, just let out you did that in 6 hours? Yeah, it was very exciting to see that, we're really on the cutting edge of what's going on in AI. And we've even heard some clients of ours and other agencies say that they're starting to feel confident in the future of Drupal, specifically because the Drupal CMS and the AI agents. That was a reason why they wanted to stay with it. And then, yeah, with ECA, AI and ECA is starting to become a really big thing. Some people at DropSolid have been helping us. Some people at Omedia have been helping us with MCP, a way to get Drupal to connect with everything. And there's this cool, I won't go into loads of detail about it. It's something Anthropic made. It's this new initiative in AI. It's like the rest of AI to make it so that AI applications can all talk to each other. And there's this like open source repository of MCP servers. And there's like Jira, Slack. And then there's Drupal right there, alongside everyone else, right at the forefront of this new initiative. None of the competitors, other open source software is anywhere close to us with these things. Has anyone seen this video before of doodling? A few people, yeah? So this was a video that really kicked everything off for me. It was a very early demo of these AI agents. And what you're going to see here is, we're working with web form. And we thought, could we make something that could make it easier to make web forms? And what's easier than just drawing a form? So here, Marcus has drawn this form here. It's very simple. It's got first name, last name. You can see dietary restrictions, just says choice 1, 2, 3. It's very rough. And we start with this thing with Mini Kanban, this module that he's worked on, where we tried to find a UI that was a little bit more natural for controlling these agents. So you create an epic, you tell the AI agents, I want to build a web form, and then upload the image. And what it does is the first one is a project manager agent. And it knows some tasks that it can do, and it passes it on. It creates a workflow where it says the first one, this one over here, this one is able to look at the image and describe the form, and it passes on to the next agent that is able to take a description of a form and actually implement it on your Drupal site. And we started showing this video to a lot of people, and it's how the Drupal CMS AI agents came to be, through meeting various people, showing off this little architecture here. But it was a proof of concept. It was never really something releasable yet. And so, please sir, I want some more. There's a few agents there. There's a couple of things going on, but there's a lot more that could be done. So, who's ever been delayed by public transport in any way? Right. It's kind of miserable. I gave a bit of this talk at Drupal Camp Cambridge, and as I was talking about delays, there was a train hit a cow on our way into the event, and it killed off all the power lines, and so it was insanely difficult to get to this event. So that was a major disruption. Rail compensation, it is in the UK. It's something we work with a lot, but 30-minute delay. They're entitled 50% compensation, but in 2013, 88% of people didn't claim compensation. It could take sometimes months. We were working with some clients where it would take literally a backlog of months just working through all these delay repay claims. And so it's something that we've worked in a lot, where we've built a fully Drupal-based system. Native Drupal CRM was our thing. It was a claims management system where people would upload a ticket. Our system would have a lot of automation to calculate how delayed your train was the ticket valid, fraud protection, integration with accounting software, etc. But when AI hit, it was the first thing of there were some steps that humans needed to do. What if we could get AI to do it? And so, these are all the problems with it. And this is the thing that we built. So I have a little video here of, again, with some funky music. So we have, this is not our real system, but it's some sort of something we put together and built with AI. But you've got a simple entity here with a ticket that's uploaded and a name and things. And so we're going to go in and create an epic and say, process that claim. And then you're going to see, again, all of those agents work. This video, it's got weird stuff going on. It's now being able to look at it. It's able to process, it's processing multiple nodes claims. It's able to compare that image to the data and figure out if they're likely to be on it. It can actually do things like check how valid the ticket is. Does it look like it's a fake ticket? And then finally, at the end, we can see it's calculated the amount. So yeah, this is a little example of something where you could use AI to automate something that is actually quite complex. So before we get going with any more about this, I'm going to go into a little bit of theory. I'm hoping by the end of this is how you're going to feel about AI. Because this is like the cool, cutting-edge stuff about AI agents, how they work, what are the terms, and then we can go into like how you actually make stuff with Drupal. So what is an agent? It's a word that people use a lot. It's a really big marketing term, so people are using the word agent to describe anything with AI. In fact, they're using it to describe things that don't use AI at all. The heart of it is instructions, tools, and swarm. So what I'd say, what is instructions? It's like, what do you do? It's the commands you tell it. It's the thing of the description of what that agent is supposed to achieve. The tools is it needs to do something, usually outside of the LM in some way. Edit a field, create a form, retrieve some information, some context, some articles. And then a big thing about agents is they can work together. In a little bit more detail, the instructions are a system prompt that define what that agent can do. It's kind of innate knowledge. The commands are usually the thing you're doing, like if you're using the chatbot with the assistant, it's the please make me a course. That will be a command. And it's also the history in memory, like maybe the history of your chat history. Or some of these agents now, they start like building up a profile of you as you talk and store it in its memory. We don't have that with Drupal. Then there's tools. But there's actually a variety of different kinds of tools. Tools can be actions. They do something, as I said, like change a field, edit some content, go and post something on some third-party service. You're going to see some stuff in Vincenzo's talk about building AI agents. And he's got some examples of it working with third parties. Or they can do information retrieval. And this might be, there's a term called RAG. Christoph will have a talk explaining that in a lot more detail. Yeah, that's a way that AI can find content. But it also could get other kinds of information, like what page am I on, the context, what time zone am I in, what permissions do I have. And then a very important tool for agents is handover tools. And this is where agents can use other agents as a tool to achieve something. And those agents can use other agents as a tool to achieve something. And those agents can use the previous agent and go in a loop. And so it's why you have this wild swarm of these agents. It's an important part of it to achieve something complex. Various agents with various tools. They have different specialties. You'll have planners, PMs, orchestrators, triage agents that can like divvy it out to different people. And then a big part of what counts as an agent is loops and review steps. The concept that it could write some code, test it, go back in, find it didn't work, rewrite that code. Or you're writing some content, compare it to your brand guidelines, and go around in circles until you get something that's that works. And you can see this is a concept that exists outside of us. In Anthropic, there's a really great blog post called Building Effective Agents. And this is the basics of an LLM, as I talked about before. This one here, if you attended Marcus's, did anyone here attend Marcus's talk this morning? So what you're hearing here is this workflows is one way of building AI applications. It's actually probably the most reliable. Everyone loves talking about agents. This is probably the thing that will actually solve problems, whereas agents are much more flexible, they're more magical, but much harder to get right. This is what they're really like in Drupal CMS. It's not really true agents quite yet. In the next couple of weeks, Drupal AI module 1.10 is going to come out, and we're going to see real agents. But right now, it's more like there's an orchestrator that does a series of LLM calls and then synthesizes it back to you in your chat. And then this is the true one. I say now, it's like a week, where you have an LM call is generated, it goes to an evaluator. If it's rejected, it goes back with feedback. If it's accepted, it goes out. So that's the theory. You're all now geniuses about AI. You know a lot about it. So can you make it yourself? Now, this was an example of something. I'm going to rush through it a little bit, of something that we made, where it was like a swarm to do content variants. So Emma, who maybe is here, she has a BOF about opening up Drupal's terminology. And what we wanted to do was try and create a swarm, an agent swarm, that could take some content in Drupal and create variants for various different reasons. So you start with, when you're going into playing around with these swarms, as you can see all these different swarms. They have different projects in them with different boards, and you can edit those swarms. There's a whole bunch of ways I'll talk about in the future about other ways that you can start playing around with these agents. And so we go into the BOF submissions board, and we see this thing, the mini Kanban. Again, this is now something that people can start using more now. And we add an epic, and we're going to actually tell it, instead of typing in the content, we're actually going to tell it the URL and ask it to scrape that and then fill it in into your thing in Drupal. So you can see here a little bit of AI migration, again, is starting to be something that we can all use. So when I say the AI migration stuff isn't ready yet, that's more like a whole complete package that helps marketeers migrate a whole site. But the bits of it, you're seeing it, you saw the XP agents there. You can see here, here's a little bit of migration happening. And so we create the epic again. And then I'm going to show you a video of all of those things working, but when it has worked, you can actually see those tasks and look at it, and it actually describes to you what it's done and how and why. So if something's gone wrong, you can then go and change the prompt or correct it. You can see, if I go back, there was a create a comment. So similar to how with the chatbot you can speak to these agents. With the mini Kanban approach, you can also check it, ask it to do different things. So it's made this content. And now we're going to ask it, can you make it in 3 other variants? WordPress user for kids, marketeers. And again, we had this thing where the project manager created them as 3 separate components. So we're going to do another little video with funky music. So like, again, I don't know why, I just really love watching these little agents move around and do their little thing. So we have something of like, how could you make your own? And actually, a lot of these agents now can be made entirely through the UI. They don't need any developer stuff. So with Vincenzo, sometimes you do need to code, and that's going to teach you how you do things when you do. But actually, when you go to AI agents, it used to be there were 3. Now there's so many agents. There's some that may be appropriate to go into Drupal CMS. There's some that may be appropriate to go into modules. There's some that will be linked only to our site, things that we create, because there's a ton of them now. When you go to create an agent, it's very simple now. You have a label and a description. The description does matter, because this description is how other agents will understand what that agent does. There's a bunch of different settings, like whether this is a project manager or is going to be its own swarm. And then there's some settings like max looping. And then you have the system prompt. And so this is one where it's about publishing and unpublishing agents due to something here. So you can say in the system prompt, you can describe how this agent's supposed to behave. And then we see the tools. So in this case, this is a sub-agents. So these are all other agents in the system that exist that you can do, like the web form one that we saw earlier. Article searcher can go through your site and find content. Views agent, which is not perfect, but we can do a lot more there. And then the standard taxonomy node and field. So you can use other agents as tools. But there's actually a huge number of different tools here. So we've got modification tools that change content, like edit things. We've got tools that can pull information and context out, find out your page number. They can search the web. They can scrape the internet. They can go to Media Wiki and pull articles in if you want to do fact checking. But we've created this new structure that is a lot more consistent. The old ones that we made in Drupal CMS were very custom. Like Marcus sort of made it however he likes and sort of passed these like PHP arrays into this thing. And I had a couple of times when some people hired us to have Marcus teach them how to build these AI agents, and I would walk into the room after he'd finished with them, and they all glazed over, panicked, and so it wasn't there yet, but this new architecture is so consistent, we'd be able to just bring in a good 150 Drupal core actions, and with ECA, we're working with them, and all the ECA actions are also going to be there. And because it is more consistent, we've been able to create, obviously, an agent that can create agents, because it's just content, it's just editing content and looking at it. So yeah, Vincenzo's talk at 3 o'clock will be if you're a developer and you want to do it on your own. But let's bring it back into the Drupal CMS. So we saw this mini Kanban, which I love. Some people are less keen on it. They've got all of their different ideas of how they want to control agents. But let's go back to the Drupal CMS, the chatbot that people are familiar with. And what if you want to build an agent that works with that? Well, now, before, if you've seen it, there was 3. Now they're all there, all of the agents, the swarms, the individual ones. In fact, we can even bring in a lot of the tools are now just available directly to the chatbot. So now a chatbot can do many, many, many things. And here's an example where we had a chatbot use the similar agent tab before for the BOF things, but it just was able to change an email. And this might seem a bit odd why you'd want to do this, but in reality, forms are a little bit annoying having to fill them in. Being able to just copy and paste a whole bunch of free text or an image, and the agent just fills everything in. Makes incisions as it goes through changing those things. It can chain the agents behind the scenes, so it can go find some information. And we can actually see some community members have done some really cool stuff with this. So yeah, they can now, we've got tools that can create content, they can edit content. In the situation of that one of automating the claims, in reality, it was just editing a field, a status field and changing things. It can scrape the web and pull stuff in. It can publish and unpublish things, upload images. A huge number of abilities are there, and therefore we can create agents around those things. So how do we control these agents? Well, we've seen the mini Kanban. That's one way, which is the one that, like I said, I just really love it. I love it. I think one of the finding some resistance in the Drupal community, because obviously everyone here, you're coders, you're programmers. So I see all these cool, I move forward quickly. I feel like a lot of you this is ECA. You love these graphs, React Flow, you like all these flows. I think I keep hearing developers almost visualize these flows of nodes and things moving along in their heads. And these flow diagrams fit with the if and loops and everything that you're doing in coding. But to some degree, as a project manager, agency owner, that's how I think. When I want to build something, I have people who have skills. This person's really good at UX. This person's really good at backend. This person's really good at this. And I have project managers who I come up with ideas, I write things down, I help create a brief, I give it to a whole bunch of people who have skills, and they all hand it to each other, not necessarily in a way that I control how they do that. And so I found this mini Kanban approach of building agents and then orchestrating them really fits with how, as a non-developer in the more project managery sphere, my wife is in HR, and occasionally I show her all the kind of things I'm excited by. But I showed her Monday.com recently, and I've never seen her take to some software more than that mini Kanban board there. It's just everything in her life now is organized with all of these Kanban boards all over the place. But that's just one of them. So we have the chatbot, as we talked about before. We are working a lot with ECA, and I think in the AI community as a whole, a lot of the tools that they've got, like something called FlowWise, NVIDIA's got some, they use these tools to build the agents. You have a little circle representing an agent, and its tools are little things that pop off of it. And yeah, we're talking to Jürgen, a lot of the ECA team, about bringing some of their stuff to the way that you can control AI agents and connect them. React Flow is fantastic, and so we're probably going to think about something like that as a way of controlling these agents. And then content widgets. So you've seen in Drupal CMS we had a simple one of create alt text. Here we've got suggest taxonomy terms. And so what we're hoping to is make it so there will be lots of widgets you can put in your editing experience, but when you click a button, behind the scenes it fires off a whole bunch of agents and then brings it back right into your content editor. And with CK Editor, we also have these assistants where you can create an assistant that can do a whole bunch of things, like you highlight your content. Marcus showed a very complex one where he was able to take an image and then find the address of that image and reviews about it and then put it into your browser. You can do things like summarize the content or adjust the tone to be more corporate, where you put in your brand guidelines in. A whole bunch of ways that we can control these agents. And then just buttons throughout the site. Translate with AI. It seems very simple, translate, like it's been around for a while, but actually there's a lot of complexity to it, because one thing I find is I remember seeing someone who wanted ChatGPT to write them a cover letter, and they were Swedish. And what would happen is it would write it in Swedish, but because it was so American, it would write an American-style cover letter in Sweden. Now, I don't know, how many Swedish people are there here? Obviously, we've got Marcus. Any other Swedish? We got some Swedish. So, like, you can't call yourself a rock star developer if you're a Swedish person doing a cover letter. There's this kind of American style of like, I'm going to be the greatest person, I'm going to work millions of hours a day, I'm going to be your chief person. And what the translation tools would do is just translate that tone and style just into the Swedish language. And it was just embarrassing to anyone who had to try and use it. But what we have instead is with AI, we can do things like put in brand guidelines per language or per region. We can have it so as a web search that looks at the thing that you're translating, finds other things in your system that are similar to that, and then looks at how those were translated to be model examples. Or maybe we'll have it work with analytics, so it can look at those things and change the tone to the articles that perform the best. Like, these are all things that these agents behind the scenes can do when you have this button that you click. So, why Drupal AI Agent Swarm? There's a lot of fights that turns out with the AI stuff. It's very controversial, it's new, keep having those different fights, one about mini Kanban, and this is a big one, is that everyone keeps saying to me, like, why are you doing this in Drupal? Why not use all the other AI tools in there? You know, why not use the best tool for the job? And somebody sent me this video, this picture here, where, like, you know, it is the case that, like, digital ops orchestration, being the center of all your AI agents, your automation tools, doing everything, basically every single company on the planet now is trying to be the AI company. Salesforce, they're no longer CRM. They are the AI orchestration company. And they're just all doing it. And I do think we're still pretty far ahead, but you know, a good 6 months ago when I was looking at the AI stuff in Drupal, we were miles ahead. But they are actually catching up. They're getting better and better and better. Still not as good as us, I think, but they're getting better. This is my belief, is what we want. There we go. I still think this. I still think Drupal is going to take over the world. I think the reason why is I think it's going to be the AI orchestration platform. It is the case because of the way these tools are working. Maybe we don't need to do orchestration here because actually all the tools we built, you can expose them to other agentic systems. So you could have, I don't know, LangChain, use all the tools in Drupal. There was a really cool thing with MCP, the MCP module and Media. They did this demo of Claude Desktop on your own machine, and it controlled all the Drupal agents. So it might be there's an orchestrator out there that controls Drupal. It might be we control all of theirs. Don't know what the future's going to hold, but I do think no one does human-centric like we do. The concept of site builder is actually very, very rare. That concept, even in Drupal, we have gone through a period of sometimes being more pro-site builder, sometimes being more pro-developer and enterprise, and we can be going back and forth. But the reality is very few do it like us, where there's a lot, almost everything you can do through a UI that people say is complicated. But if you, in our CRM world, if you look at what we've done in Drupal and compare it to Microsoft Dynamics or SAP, we're miles ahead. It's the case that actually Drupal is really easy to use relative to a lot of software that exists out there, just not a couple of the ones that a lot of us agencies are competing with. And by making it human-centric, it means that these AI agents, we can control them and we can see what they're doing. I've been using this Claude code, and some people love it, but there's something scary about just asking something to do it, and it just goes off for sometimes days or hours maybe, and just starts writing loads of code and doing loads of things. There's something a bit nerve-wracking. Well, I can't really inspect exactly what it's doing or tweak it. So you could do that. There's an element with our Drupal stuff. You'll be able to do something similar with Code Claude. We've actually got tools that can go into Git. It can pull code in, do something in Drupal, and then give a merge request out. We've got stuff that can look at files on your computer, do something, run tests. Like, all of those things can happen. But the thing about it with Drupal is I could do things like I could have a review agent that I create to review it that has some documentation on my brand guidelines. It has the Drupal coding standards. It maybe has the Drupal coding standards, but my organization's way of doing things. You know, way back when you would be a panels or context agency. Did anyone use both? Who was a panels person? Who was like into panels back then? Okay, who was into like context or display suite? Okay, who did like both and didn't care about any of this? Okay, oh no, oh, there was a few, okay. We were panels. We loved the panel stuff. So like, yeah. So, but the other thing we have is that like no one does open source like we do. I was very radicalized by a book called Wikinomics when I was about 16, super into open source back then. It was like a moral thing for me. And it was called Wikinomics, How Mass Collaboration is going to Change Everything. It predicted stuff. And sadly, open source hasn't gone that way. A lot of open source projects are really just run by one organization. You know, if Chrome technically is open source, but it's pretty much just Google's thing. They can do what they like with it. Yes, you can use it and do what you want, but you know, if you build an open source version of Chromium, it's never going to go anywhere, really, not like Chrome can. So I think when you look at us, the ecosystem we have, the way the modules are all interoperable, we don't, although we're looking at a marketplace now, it is the case that a lot of these other things, they're just a whole bunch of proprietary plugins and widgets that you can bring into the kind of core open source stuff. Or maybe it's open core, where they try and make the open source bit of it as rubbish as possible, so you're forced to upgrade. I think there's something about the Drupal community, how we organize things, that is real, and we make everything interoperable. And I think that's going to mean that we'll have an ecosystem unlike any of these other people. Like those actions that we've seen. I don't think it's going to be that hard. If you create your modules properly, if you make good plugins, if you do context for those things properly, we're going to have it so that modules we've never seen before, AI will be able to make its own agents to control that module if your documentation's good enough, both in the code and outside of it. And that means that everything we've got in Drupal, all of the integrations will just be available in a way that isn't there with something like LangChain, where you have to build an ecosystem from scratch. And nobody does community collaboration like we do. So, Drupal, we need you. We want you to come and join us. The AI-assisted migration, I think, is a really exciting thing. We're going to start talking about it more and more, but it's a huge collaboration. Acquia have led the way with it, along with us. But now, here's a bunch of companies who have said they're going to contribute to really pushing the UX of it, and we're meeting here and talking about it a lot. There's others who are focusing on the development of things, and there's others that are working on the ecosystem of hosting them. OpenSocial have used AI for their Gaia AI, and that's the one that's been working with the United Nations. So they've been pushing things a lot, especially search. This was really cool. It came out recently. SpecBee made this little AI module, and it is a CK editor assistant. So when you're writing your code, writing your content, you can highlight the content, call this assistant in CK editor, and behind the scenes, a series of agents will actually search through all your content for things that are referenced in it, and then link to it. So to help with SEO, it will mean that your site internally links more effectively, but it just does it for you. I mean, I say does it for you. Okay, it could get it wrong, it could hallucinate, but it's in your content editor. You can just change that. You can just look at those links. It doesn't take very long to verify this stuff. It's not just going out into the wild. It's something that is to help you. And this was really powerful because it was using all of the tools we've given it. It fits along that, and they've released this as a module, and I think it produces quite, some significant value, quite simply. And it's a huge, we've got a massive collaboration now coming of all these different organizations helping more and more. I keep trying to talk about them a bit, and it's getting large enough now that it's getting harder and harder, but I'm going to try and showcase what everyone is doing more and more and more, so you can see that this is not something that's just freely give. It's not just a one-off thing in Drupal CMS. This is something that is gaining traction, and more of us are building into this AI ecosystem. I did think trial Drupal CMS, the AI bit is quite hard. I've been talking about, I had this presentation I've been sending to a lot of people about how we need to create something that will allow you to do the AI side of it easier, so you can just click a button, it's just there. Anyway, at Drupal Singapore, that was me there. This was like an amazing event. I really recommend. The Drupal Asia stuff was so cool. Tokyo, I think it's going to be so cool. There's some pictures of the hotel that the event was in. It was such a fun event. But one thing happened here, and this was this. So this is Schnitzel from Amazy, and this is me, Yaut Justanu. If that's I did the silly thing of using my video game handle from when I was like 12 as my Drupal.org thing, and it stuck. But Yautja is what the Predators call themselves. Yeah, I'm a nerd. We all are, So Amazy have been one of the first, but there's a lot coming as well, who are looking at doing, trialing the Drupal AI stuff. At the booth, we'll show it off, but you'll be able to go to try.amazy.ai. You'll be able to click a button, and it'll give you the same thing as Drupal CMS, but you'll be able to just log in, but you'll actually have a place where it gives you some free credits to get going. And so you can have secure AI with like AWS Bedrock, which is very good, but it's so hard to set up, even though we did build a provider and a module to get it to work, but it is very scary unless you're an expert. So I'm expecting that this is something that will become much larger amongst a lot of hosts. In fact, even agencies would benefit from having some kind of routing system. So you can connect to AI behind the scenes, but all your websites just go through something simple. And so this is another community way in which the community is starting to step up. And my dream is this is a website Marcus made, Workflows of AI. Every single time he built anything with AI, he'd record a video of him testing it, stick it up online, and showcase yet another of the hundreds of different ways you can use these frameworks to build applications and use cases in like 10 minutes. And the problem is you have to watch a video, and it does, it tells you how to set it up. The dream is we're going to have a button here, which is going to be launch. So there's going to be so many AI applications that you'll be able to see. You'll click launch, there'll be a recipe already set up with a trial experience, and you can download the recipe into your site or just try it out. See what happens when you want to use AI to moderate content or to do the complex seek editors, etc. But I recommend checking out Workflows of AI if you want to see what's possible. Oh, don't use this list. This list. So yeah, we went through some of the ideas. Because things are getting a bit easier to understand, there's actually a lot of issues now where you could really get involved, even if you don't know the AI module very well. So we're going to have a contrib day, obviously, on Thursday. Here's a whole bunch of issues that we've tagged for this. So you can take a look, throw yourself into one of these things, and help build things. So yeah, we can go to questions. I don't know, I haven't got a clock on the time, but I'm going to be at a lot of these events. So we're going to be talking about AI in so many different places. And yeah, Slack, #AI. Also #AI-contrib, but #AI is the big community where a lot of us hang out. So there. Thank you for listening. Yeah, how do we do questions for someone who, do you just yell? Do you want to just yell the question? He's a second-class citizen. I mean, one of the fantastic things about AI. Okay, the question was about LangChain and how are we communicating to the models, the LLMs like OpenAI, etc. Are we using Python or not? In the early days, I did want to use Python because that's where all the cool people were at the time. I just wanted to be part of that. Actually, with AI, the difference between programming languages is changing. It's getting easier and easier to just take a Python SDK and convert it to PHP. So there is a PHP OpenAI SDK. And so we can connect with that. And if you look at the Amazy provider, that works with something called LiteLLM, that is a router. But that works with OpenAI's SDK, which is in PHP. So a lot of the things are already there. The goal was to create this abstraction layer to hide that complexity. So behind the scenes, we have this system, and there's some videos about how the architecture works, where we have a provider. Somebody's got some thoughts on what features does that AI have. Can it do image? Can it do tools? It connects to the appropriate SDK, and it converts things. So it means that Drupal will know things like the context limit, what its features are. If you try and do something complex with images, and you select a model that can't do images, then Drupal can tell you because it knows. And so we've been trying to do that, but it does mean that behind the scenes, things just connect and you don't have to really worry about it. We do also lots of helper things like logging is a big thing that we do, and showing how those things are connected so that we, in Drupal, do more with that connection to OpenAI. So you have all the tools you need for that. Yeah. So at the Amazy booth, we're going to show off the AI search recipe that works with Umami. But we've got in the AI module, there's a whole bunch of sub-modules. We haven't done any talks here about it, but I think Christoph is going to talk about RAG a lot more and AI search. But we do have similar abstraction layers with vector databases, so you can do those kind of AI search things. And we also have a series of operation types within our thing. So we don't just do LLMs, we do embedding models, but also re-ranking models now. There's a lot of different AI services that actually fit in this AI provider. There was a module called the LLM provider, which we took and turned it into this thing. The creator of it was Michael Gao, who also is now a maintainer of this. And he called it LLM provider because that's where we started. It's more than that now. It's an AI provider because there's a series of different operation types that we support. I mean, there's a good like 26 on Hugging Face. We don't support all of them, and some of them probably aren't needed anymore. But we do support different tools. So if there is a new search thing, you can do that. I mean, I really like our AI search thing. It works with Search API, and it gives you a lot of control on exactly how you want to index things. And so there's these kind of black box search things that just work. But actually, I think you're going to get a lot of benefit from being able to control, like, what metadata do you want to put in to help AI do that thing? And we've already got a UI that does that. So that's how we tend to do search is with the AI search submodule. I think it is still experimental. Like we're just about there. Like it's like any week now. We're just in the last couple of bits of clearing up the last thing to make it so it comes out of experimental AI search. Any more questions? There? Yeah. I would say change, definitely not diminish. There's a tool called Notebook LLM that Google released. And it did a bunch of things, but one cool, like, gimmicky thing was you could put a URL of a website, it would scrape it, and it would make this, like, 30-minute podcast. It was like a cool little podcast, these two people talking about your website. And one organization I was speaking to, who showed it to me, they showed it with their website. And these AI, podcast hosts were talking about the site, and they were like, this client looks amazing. Look at their client list. They've got this and this and this. They seem to be a big deal. But, well, they've got the logos on their website, but there's no case studies. So who knows? Maybe they did a tiny thing. We don't know how big a deal they are for that thing. And this agency head was telling me, he was going like, Jamie, this is a little input, little like nugget of what is to come, because Google, who control all of this, have released a little proof of concept where their own AI agent said something slightly negative about his organization and site. We don't know when they're going to use this for ranking, but you saw it. I think it's exciting because what you tended to do with SEO is you had to take the complexity and nuance of your site and condense it down to a couple of words, and then just hammer those words to try and get them to come up. Whereas when we start doing indexing behind the scenes to improve AI search, when we were working at the University of Edinburgh, one thing is they had a library page, but they didn't like to call it a library because the library meant something else. So they had all these words that weren't library to describe a library. And one of the things was, like, a lot of the students struggled to, like, know when the library's open because the word library didn't appear. But what we could do is we could use AI automators to look through the site, sort of index it, but actually we'd ask it questions like, who would want to use this page? Can you translate any words that are a bit odd to common things? And behind the scenes, we could write whole prose about that content that AI search could look at. So whereas with, like, traditional SEO, your goal is to condense it down to a tiny amount of words. With AI search, to some degree, because these agents have the time to read it, you can actually do the opposite. You can explode the content to everything you could think of that is useful. Like on Drupal.org, it would be so great if every module had detailed use cases of how you would actually use views for this, and this. And that would make AI search better rather than our traditional way. So I think indexing for SEO is always going to be here. But I think it is going to change as AI gets better. Question up there? Yeah, so one of the modules we've been working on is the AI evaluations module, and the more and more we're doing things that are real to solve real problems, evaluations become very important. And the evaluations module it will become, I mean, it's very limited at the moment, but will become a series of tools to help you audit those things. And there's a whole variety of ways you can do that. One of the things we do find is why Automators works the way it does. Actually, Automators, every step is stored in a field that is stored in a database. Every single decision it makes, it's stored there. And we're finding the same thing with AI agents. We need to log everything. Because with our deterministic systems, if somebody tells you something's wrong and you debug it, I mean, obviously this doesn't really happen all the time, but in theory, if they have a problem on their system, you can just try it out and you'll see the same problem. You can reproduce their errors. But you just can't with AI. Like, if they have a problem, it might just work. It might just fail 1 every 100 times. And so we need to store everything to audit it. And then there's going to be some tools to improve that. So we've explored things like spot checking. So make it so you can, like, every 1,000 AI decisions, we're going to get a human to check and then build the stats on that. We can use AI to evaluate AI. So have AI check how good that thing is to something else. And so there's a bunch of tools that people are using in the outside of our community, but also that we're bringing into Drupal for auditing and evaluating AI. There's a company, I can't remember their name now, that is building specifically a AI auditor for looking at bias. So there's these things that exist. This is one of the things that we might look outside of Drupal to do, but even then, a lot of the stuff that is outside of Drupal tends to be just a prompt and response, and how good are they solving like a complicated maths question. Whereas this end-to-end agentic system we had with Drupal CMS, where actually, you know, where you display it on the page, a lot of people have preconceptions of chatbots. There's so many things going on the whole flow that you need to evaluate, more than just simply what the LLM does. And I think that's one of the reasons why doing something in Drupal is quite beneficial, because we've got a lot of the steps in Drupal to evaluate it and audit things. Any more questions?
For the Kanban module that you how did you guys like really structure that? Like, is it like a bunch of agents working with automators, or is it like per agent or an automator per column?
Yeah, so this is sort of an internal conflict. There's now mini Kanban and mini Kanban _ agents. So mini Kanban is supposed to be just an actual mini Kanban thing, just doing mini Kanban like you would expect with tasks, you know, epics, all those kind of things. I like it for agents, so I'm pushing for Marcus to try and make it more agenty, and he wants it to stay a bit more mini Kanban-y, so we'll see where it goes. It's definitely something where, you know, in the early days of UI, everyone was thinking about like folders being like literally, like you'd have UIs where you have a piece of paper and you drag it into a folder, you'd store it there. I remember an early version, was it Microsoft Bob or something, where you, like the way that your UI was like a literal office, and you have like a little desk and you click on things to go around it. And then labels came along in Google, and it just blew everyone's mind. Like, oh my goodness, a thing can exist in 2 places. And it's like, yeah, well, that can be with tech, because we don't actually have to put paper in files. And so I think everyone is going to the things, UI elements we already have, so they're going to chatbots, because we already had chatbots. Everyone hated them, didn't really work, but we had them. That was a UI thing that people were used to. These graph approaches, N8N already existed to help you build automation systems using a graph, but now we're using it for AI agents. So some people are not into this Kanban approach because no one else is really doing it, but I think we will be in a place that how the UIs around agents look this year is going to be completely different in 5 years, completely different in 10 years. So Emma, who's part of the Drupal CMS team and has been helping us, works at University of Edinburgh. She's written some blogs that are a bit more academic, looking at the academic look into UIs around AI agents. And there isn't much yet, because they've only been around for a very small amount of time. I mean, LLMs have only been around for a small amount of time. Agents even less so. So I think how we're going to structure things is going to change a lot, and we're going to have to just play around with it. One thing we are doing is we are more and more abstracting the underlying architecture for how the agents all talk to each other. And so if we can get the structure is consistent, then you can just replace it with whatever UI you like. It can be a mini Kanban, it can be the chatbot, it can be a ticker of just telling you what it's doing. Like, it can be graphs. And the goal is to make it so that, like, if we structure it properly, the UI on top of it doesn't matter as much. No.
Is there like a global log of all interactions with either the chatbot or with the mini LLM that's default enabled? So just an audit log of what was fed to the AI when and what actually.
Yeah, there is. So we already there's an AI logging submodule that does that, and it's complicated because it actually needs to log not just the LLMs but also all the tool calls now. So you can see how those things link to each other. So we created this very cool new AI logging thing that's very visual. I don't have a picture of it today, but it means you can go into something and you can see loads of tabs to find out all the information about that log, and then you can see all the child things. It's so complex, so getting it actually into Drupal, into the AI module has taken a while, and getting it to work with tools has taken a while. We're working with the ECA people because they've got similar issues with logging the ECA model flows. And the dream is if we can get the AI logging consistent enough, I also want to be able to make it so you can download the logs and then replay them on your site. So if you have your log, something's gone wrong, I should be able to download it and then just like play through it and stop at a point, change something, keep all the context that it had, but change the prompt in some way and see if I can get it to work. So there's a lot of stuff we want to do with logging to improve it, but it is there. One big area of logging is that like finding out how to display what it is a log is about is hard, because it's not just prompt answer, it's a whole conversation. And in Drupal CMS, the last message is usually just a yes, please, maybe 1 or 2 times. So what we've had to do is use AI to summarize the log. So we use AI to like summarize what it does and then summarize the output. And we also obviously had to make it so that that doesn't get logged using the same method. Otherwise, you would have infinite amounts of AI summarizing itself, saying I was summarizing myself, I was summarizing myself, I was summarizing myself. So we had to stop that. But yeah. Question there?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's your AI budget? Because, this stuff can get kind of expensive. Do you find that to be like an issue, or?
As in for the actual LLM calls? I don't find it to be an issue, personally. I think it's a case of the goal is to do something useful with the AI. And so if you're doing something useful, then you're either getting paid for it, or you would have had to pay someone, a human or someone else, to do that thing. So a lot of people do push back on that, but I've found personally, you should, if you can't make it do something useful for you, then you need to rethink not the cost of AI, but like, why aren't you doing something useful? I know really early on, the first bit of money I made with AI was I was not a stay-at-home dad for a while, I wasn't working, my wife was in HR, and she used AI. There was like a CSV file that spat from her HR questionnaire software, and the CSV file was a mess, and it took them 3 days to like manually reorganize everything. And she got AI to help her write a VBA macro that just reorganized the CSV file into columns so she could do pivot tables. And she won 150 quid as a employee of the month. And so that was it. That paid for a few months of the AI usage. And so I think that's the main thing to focus on, is doing valuable things with it is more important than the expense. And it goes down every like 3 months. It goes down by like 30%. DeepSeek came out, and again, the media overhyped it. It was not as extremely cheap as it is, and obviously the company lied. I don't know why no one in the media just thought they might lie about how much it cost, because then it would look good if they just lie. It just wasn't true that it only cost $6 million to train, but it still was a lot cheaper. It just wasn't as wildly cheap as they said. And so it's about 30% cheaper, which has been true every like 3 months. And so we've had a couple of times when we've bid for projects and won, where we've like charged per API call based around our costs on a certain level of how much the API calls costs. And then it's really nice because we bid on that thing. It's like a 5-year contract, and every single time it comes along where the tokens gets cheaper, it's just like, oh, I just made a couple of £1,000 today from nothing. So it's, yeah. The open source models as well are getting a lot better, and the small models are getting a lot better. So the small, cheaper models used to be useless, and they're not anymore. They're getting really good. We haven't really played with them enough for Drupal CMS AI agents yet, but there's one by Microsoft called like Quen that's pretty good with function calling. And so I think we're going to play around with that maybe this week to see what you can do with AI running on your laptop. And that's obviously way cheaper than some of these models. I mean, I will keep talking about AI forever, and I'm going to be, there's a BOF today. Is there any more questions, or? Oh, yeah.
Most of the use cases for Drupal AI I've seen make the life of a site builder easy. What role do you see AI agents playing in making life of a backend developer writing code easy, and how do you see that helping?
So it's just, it's not the thing I'm focusing on. Oh, so the question was, how do, a lot of the tools we've got about making the site builder's life easier, and how could we make back-end developers' lives easier? And it's just the thing that we in the AI module aren't focusing on, because basically the whole world is focusing on that. There's tools like Windsurf, Claude Code is something everyone's talking about at this event recently. People have built plugins for Cursor to create, they have their own agentic system, and they created plugins for Cursor that understand Drupal better than the core things are. So there's a lot of things that can work with your, so Claude Code works with your command line, and then Cursor is an IDE that you can work with. Obviously GitHub, and they all have their own little AI agents there. So the whole world is moving towards making the life of a back-end developer easier. A lot of the time it's because these companies are made by programmers, so they're building tools to make their life easier, and then releasing them. And so that's why that's not becoming our focus. But there's a lot of people working on that. Again, you can just I can just keep going, but is there any more questions, or should we wrap it up? Okay, cool.